That link is sent to her there now,
Good
Tom.
afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest in the series of Western Department of Agriculture. Okay, thank you, Brian. Welcome. Webinars. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marines webinar. Today, the latest in our series. Today will be on bringing your consignment through the ports and indeed through the airports post January the 1st. I will shortly hand over to Noreen Galvin, a veterinary inspector here at the department, to give us an introduction. You will also be hearing today from Jason Callahan, who is a portal inspector at Dublin Port, from Jackie Gaffrey, who's a portal inspector at Shannon Airport, from Fiona Kelly, who is an IT project manager for the department, from Joe McNamara, who is a plant health inspector, and we also have a number of other experts available to help us on the questions and answers session later on. So without any further ado, I will hand over now to Noreen Galvin.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everyone for attending. So as Tom mentioned, this is I suppose a talk that's geared at the operator responsible for the consignment and around their responsibilities and role involved in the import controls process, specifically notifying us on Traces NT of the consignment's arrival at the border control post and uploading the documents to the DAFM import portal, which Fiona will talk about later in the presentation. Jason and Jackie and Joe will go through the creation of the CHEDs, the Common Health Entry documents, both for products of animal origin, plant products, and live animals, and then that will be followed by the equivalent uploads of the documents for those consignments on the import portal. I hope you find it very useful, and please ask any questions you have. I suppose it's important to say that while today we are talking about products of animal origin, live animals, plant and plant products, our colleagues in the HSE, they deal with food of non-animal origin. And I'd just like to draw your attention, they've asked us just to draw your attention to the information available on their websites, their email, and they also have a presentation that they did for the FSAI Brexit Bite, and that's available on YouTube on the FSAI TV channel. So it's important that if you think you may be importing these products through any of the border control posts after January 1st from GB, that you contact the HSE. But back to our own department. Thank you. I'll hand you back now to Tom or Jason. Tom and Jason.
Okay, I'll now introduce you to Jason Callahan, who is a portal inspector at Dublin Port, to take us through a variety of things that you will have to know.
Hello everybody, I'm Jason, part of the BCP staff down here in Dublin Port. We've been getting prepared for Brexit for quite a while now, so just to go through some of the issues that you might come across when you're submitting your CHED applications and getting your documents into us. So starting off on the first slide, after December 31st, products of animal origin will require a health certificate to accompany the consignments from third countries, Great Britain included. Health certificates are produced at the place of dispatch of the consignment. A copy of the health cert should be issued to you, the operator responsible for the consignment, as soon as possible, as these enable you to complete your CHED-P submissions on Traces NT. CHED submissions should be notified to the border control post at least 24 hours before the arrival into the estate. For each health cert, you will require a separate CHED submission. So preparing for your import, the first step is acquiring your health cert. You'll be issued with a copy of the health cert because the original health cert will be going with the consignment. And with these, you can actually create a CHED. For those who have not seen a health cert ever before, on the next slide we'll see a sample health cert. This will, along with your commercial documents, will be the basis for completing your CHED submission. So the next slide there, this is a model health certificate. There is several different versions depending on the commodity, but most of them will look similar to this in some way, shape or form. And that'll be the basis for you filling in your CHED application. So when you get your commercial documents on your CHED or your health cert, you're going to need to log on to Traces. So if it's your first time, excuse me, if it's your first time logging on to Traces, that's the website there, and that'll bring you directly to the login screen and Traces. On the next slide. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. So this is the front page screen on Traces NT. So when you click on the green link there, it'll bring you into your username and password. So once you put in your username and password, and it'll bring you into the main screen on Traces NT, which is on the next slide. And primarily, when you're creating certificates, you'll click on the certificates tab. For FIO search, you'll go into FIO and into CHED for your CHED applications, where you can select CHED PP, CHED P, CHED A for animals. So what I'll go through is a certain number of errors when people are creating their applications. So on the next slide there, you'll see 3 out of every 10 applications that we receive into the port at the moment has an error that needs to be amended by the operator responsible for the consignment. For third country imports at the moment, coming from far off in China or Thailand or somewhere, they're several weeks out, so we receive the paperwork quite early, and these corrections can be made quite easily. However, for Brexit, with only 24 hours notice, any CHED needing corrections, the operator responsible for consignment might mean that the CHED document check will not be completed when your consignment arrives. So it's critically important that you submit this paperwork right the first time around. So on the next screen there, I've five different products that I go through that have common errors. The first one will be frozen cooked chicken. So I go from the very beginning to the very end, producing a CHED P for frozen cooked chicken, and then for the other 4 consignments, I just show some of the common errors that are made when putting this document together. So when you click on your create certificate, you have a pop-up menu where you get a list of your CN codes. These CN codes will be on your health certificate, and going by your health certificate, you'll open up each sub menu until you get a green CHED P icon. And once you click that CHED P icon, then the green done tab will highlight, and that will bring you to the document itself that you can fill in. So on the next slide then, you'll see I-1 and I.6 is your first 2 fields that you are mandatory to fill in. So these are the consignor and the consignee, or the exporter and importer. These need to be registered. If they're not registered, you'll have to get in touch either in the UK to have them validated on Traces, or if they're in Ireland here, you'll contact that to have them validated. Again, it's critically important to have these correct, because it is an issue where there is failures on documentary checks because they put in incorrect information on this field. So on the next slide then, the next mandatory field is the border control post. For this one here, I put Dublin Port Terminal 10. If you're coming in through Dublin Airport, Shannon Airport, or Oslo Airport, it's very important that you select the right one, because if you put in the wrong port, the staff in that actual port will not be able to see your CHED document, and so your application won't be able to be processed, and you'll have to make amendments. The next slide then is I.9 is the accompanying documents. It's another mandatory field. This is where we'd ask you to put in the health cert and the health cert number and the date of issue. It's been agreed that you don't have to upload the documents in this section. There is an attachment field there, but it's not a requirement. However, you will need to put in the health cert number, the date of issue, to validate that field. You may have other documents. It's your choice. If you'd like to upload commercial invoice numbers, you can do that. But we request that you put the health cert number in the first instance. The next slide, will show I-10 is the prior notification. That's the prior notification. Again, it has to be a minimum 24 hours before arrival to the BCP. So again, it's not a particularly big issue. We never have any really errors on it, but again, just to bring your notice to it, it's a mandatory field that needs to be submitted. On the next slide, I.13 is the means of transport. So again, you'd be putting on Stena Line or Irish Ferries or whatever boats coming across. It is a required field, and you can add in the road vehicle if you know the road vehicle and the reg number. You can add that in too. On the next slide, then it's I.14 is another mandatory field. The country of dispatch, again for Brexit, it's going to be the United Kingdom GB. It won't let you complete the shed without selecting this option. I-17 is the container number seal number. It's not a required field. However, if your load is coming in a container and you can have it sealed, then you can go through a seal check a hell of a lot easier than if it's a groupage consignment. So if your consignment is in a full load and you can seal it, then documentary checks and physical seal checks can be processed a lot quicker. The next slide is I.18. So for our chicken product, you're going to have to tick human consumption. If it's for non-human consumption, you'll be selecting feed stuff. And I.19, then you have to select that it conforms to EU legislation. The next mandatory field is I.20 to I.26. Again, depending on what way or focus of the consignment coming in, for most of your products, it will be coming in for I.23 for internal market. Or if you've exported a product to the UK and it's being returned, I.25 would be for re-entry. The next slide, then I.31, this is the real guts of the shed. So you'll have your CN codes, and then on the -1 field, you'll see commodity with your CN code. Your species, then you'll select that. So you're going to learn Latin quite a lot if you don't know Latin. All your species for traces is on Latin. So whether it's Aves or Gallus, you'll select which type. That will be on your health cert. And then your product type underneath that will be for meat products or meat processing. Or there's 2 or 3 selections there. Again, that will be on the health cert. So it's critical that you select this tab. On the right-hand side, then you have establishment of origin, and that's a required field. And when you hit select on that, then it'll give you a pop-up menu where the manufacturing plant, processing plant, cold stores, and all which are on your health cert will need to be selected. And so if you see on the next slide, then it's quite important to select the correct establishment of origin, and due care should be taken as many of these establishments are validated for multiple activities. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so if you see on the left-hand side there, you have establishments, meat preparation plant, cold store, cutting plant, processing plant, and slaughterhouse. So again, as per your health cert, you need to select the correct establishment of origin activity for this, because again, documentary checks can fail if an incorrect establishment of origin is being selected. If you're moving on, excuse me, moving on to the next slide, then you have box I.31, or sorry, again, box I.31 again. As I was saying, species, Latin names, Aves and Gallus, and the product type, composite product, meat preparation, meat products. And it's very important to select the right one as per your health cert. Moving down on to the next slide, then that should be your document pretty much complete, and you'll see a submit for decision button down the bottom. If you click on this and you get an error code, it'll tell you exactly where you've made major error. So in this case, box I.31 has a description of consignment quantity is incomplete. So again, you can move back up to your box I.31 and see exactly where the error is and amend it. If you don't get any errors, it's going to be submitted to traces, and that's your application into traces complete. So on the next slide, then you'll see if you've got multiple consignments coming in, there's an option there to copy as new. So if you've got very similar consignments in, because you've already submitted and input all these details, it is very easy then to copy as new, and most of the fields are filled in for you, and you just have to change a few items on what's next. Moving on to dairy products. Again, starting off your shed, you're going to go for whatever commodity code is on the health cert. So Again, dairy products here are 0402, and you can have sub-menus where it break it down. So you'll again select your CHED P for whatever is on your health cert. And moving on to the next slide, then I've just put in straight down to box I-31. Again, the species, you can see that the list of species is growing here. So again, it's very important to make sure that you're selecting the correct species that's on your health cert. And again, there's a little change on the product type. So you have animal byproducts for feeding a farm, animal byproducts other than feeding farmed animals, colostrum, and for human consumption. So see, these are again the main errors that we come across every day when checking sheds against health certs when they're submitted to us. And moving on then to composite products. Again, you'll see there's different CN codes, and these sub-menus can stretch out quite far because again there's a huge variety of composite products. And so once again, when you find your correct CN code, you can click the done button, bring it into the screen. I'll go straight down to box I-31 on the next slide again. And you'll see that again, the list is growing. So for composite products, we can add in multiple species. And so for an example, if this was a chicken and anchovies pizza, you could select both Aves and Pesca. It would need to be added in here. And again, on the health cert, it would list exactly how many different species or product types are on your composite product. And again, on the required field product type on the other slide, you'll be selecting composite products rather than other. Moving down to non-human consumption products, so pet food and stuff. Again, you can click in, find your commodity code, create your shed. And there's again three little issues on the next slide. So for your certification, you'll have feedstuffs, technical use, other or pharmaceutical use. There we go. And again, the list of species is growing ever more. Can we go back to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. We've skipped a few. It's okay, I'll start from here. So this is fishery products. Fishery products are slightly different when importing in. So again, multiple CN codes can be added, multiple species. Special care should be selected on the drop-down menu about selecting wild stock or farm stock, as certain wild stocks require a catch certificate. Both will need an SFPA IUU compliant application and will undergo checks by the SFPA. And again, selecting establishment of origin. Normally these we could be selecting the factory freezer vessel, as opposed to actually an establishment within the country. But again, this will be under health cert. And that's pretty much my run through for creating a CHED P. And I'm sure you'll have plenty of questions, so we'll be here at the end of the day, and I'll pass you on to Jackie Gaffney now, who will go through live animals.
Thanks, Jason. Just a little bit on the live animal side of the imports of live animals. Live animals entering the Union must be inspected at an EU-approved border control post. The minimum pre-notification notice period of at least 24 hours notice before arrival. Failure to submit correct documentation within the timeline may result in significant delays. A pre-notification is given by submission of Part 1 of the Common Health Entry document, the CHED A, as opposed to CHED P for products, as is laid down in Commission Implementing Regulation 2019-17-15 through the Traces NT system. Copies of other supporting documentation like health cert should be submitted at this time. The CHED provides a standard format for documentation relating to declaration and checks for live animals arriving into the Union. This allows data on imports to be properly managed and processed within Traces NT. Just one other note there, that just for example, if you have a horse coming from England or maybe 10 horses, it's actually one CHED and one health cert per animal. Okay. So as Jason has already gone through the first part of the traces message, the traces or CHED A is also reflected nearly the same as the CHED P, only that we're actually going into CHED A there, whereas live animals, and you have which is always 01, and you have a drop down then for horses, cattle, pigs, sheep, poultry, and you just pick. So once you're logged into the traces NT and you click into create the CHED, the new CHED, you can then select CHED A for animals. Select the correct CN code as per animal that is being imported. Okay, as I said before, the CHED A reflects a lot of the same as CHED P and the accompanying documents, which would be a health cert. Just one note on traces, and it's the same for all traces. Any field that has a red asterisk on the right hand side of a box must be completed before it's submitted to the border control post. So in this instance, the accompanying documents would be a health cert, and the number for the health cert would go in there into that box into accompanying documents, and it's very similar as I've said, with few exceptions, and just to add the accompanying relevant documents as per the import. And as you can see, we have ticked here for a temporary admission is selected, and the border inspection post where it's coming in for temporary admission, maybe coming in for racing and going back out. If a horse was say going from Ireland to England to the UK, you would be ticking for re-entry to come back into Ireland. So the exit border control post and date must be submitted, and box I-20 to I-26 should be completed as per purpose of import. Okay, and this is the transport field. So say our transporters would all be registered or must be registered with the department. So in box I-28, you would fill in the details there. I-27 is not, as you can see, it doesn't have a red asterisk above it. So this field would really be used because they would be going straight from the border control post to their destination. There's really no need to fill in that side on I-27, but I-28 must be filled in with the transporter details, and they must be also registered with the department. And this is where we fill in the commodity code, which is 01 for live animals. And as you can see down along, box I-31 has mandatory fields for species, which for horses would be equus caballus fields, and then the quantity, which would be 1, country of origin, and the total gross weight. Individual identification numbers of each animal should be added where the animal has a microchip, and that would be filled into the field there just on the right hand side. And also, if you're doing numerous CHED A's for animals, you can also copy as new. Customs declaration alongside the CHED submission, a customs import declaration to revenue is to be made. This will issue an MRN number, master reference number, or SAD number. It will be in the format of the year, say 21, the country, i.e. port, Dublin, import, followed by alphanumeric code similar to this. And that's an example there. For agriculture checks, the MRN SAD number from the new AIS will be needed before you can submit your CHED imports submission to the department's import portal. Imports portal checklist. Before continuing to the department's imports portal, you need traces NT, the common health entry document, which is called CHED, customs import declaration in MRN/AIS, and health certificate and supporting documents. And now I will hand over to Fiona Kelly.
Hi, thanks everyone for coming. As Jackie and Jason outlined there, that's how you go about getting your CHED number, which you need in order to make your pre-declaration to DAFM on the import portal. So what we're going to do now is just go through a couple of screenshots to show you what the portal looks like and how you go about sending in your supporting documents. So we can move on now. So at the moment, the imports portal is live in an anonymous format, so it's not a logged in version where you can make submissions for phytosanitary certs. We are planning now a registered portal which will provide more functionality for the trader, the ability to see your previous submissions and track them, and that's going to be coming in and will be live for the 1st of January. So yeah, so the imports portal is available at the moment, as I said, anonymously at the public apps link that's on screen at the moment, and will be going live at the authenticated version of the link shortly. So we can, yeah. As I said, it's currently live for the plant and horticulture products, but only in that anonymous version. And for also pesticides residue, so products coming in that are subject to pesticides residue checks can also be declared at the moment through the anonymous format. The registered portal will be, which will be online soon, will cover live animals, animal products, phytosanitary products, so plant products, forestry products, and the pesticides products. So to log on to the systems, you go to the department's website and you click on the link to go to the Ag Food Online Services page. So the circle is a little bit below the link there. So this is the page you get presented with. You have to be registered with the department and signed up to use the online services. Details of how to register are available on the department's website. So you provide your username, you provide the login password and details of your PIN number, which will be supplied when you've registered. And then you'll be brought to a screen, which is on the next slide, which lists all the different applications that you as a user of Ag Food have access to. For the vast majority of our import traders, this will be a single listing of the import notification and inspection system. So you just click the link for the system from here and it will bring you into the landing page on the next slide of the system. So what you see when you first log in to the authenticated version is a summary of the applications you have made to date. So you can see that you have a certain number of submitted ones. So they are recently submitted. They're not being worked on by department staff yet. You can see what you have in progress. So those are the ones that are being currently brought through the examination and inspections process. And then you can see the completed ones broken down by completed and cleared for from a DAFM SPS point of view for import, and also completed but rejected applications for imports. Not available immediately will be that you can click on these to be brought to a listing to see your applications, but then you can click the new application link and it brings you to making a new declaration. So this brings you straight into giving us the details of the consignment, where the anonymous portal starts off by asking you for your contact details, because obviously you're not authenticated, so we need to know who you are. So you're brought straight into selecting the date and time of expected arrival. So you pick the date from the calendar and then the time from the clock face, and then you would click next onto the next slide. Then you provide the details of the country of dispatch and the point of arrival. So for the vast bulk of you here today, that will be the United Kingdom GB, and the point of arrival is going to be Dublin Port, perhaps Rossall Airport, Dublin Airport, or Shannon Airport. You then pick your commodity type, so animal products, the pesticides residue products, forestry, live animals, and plant and horticulture products are what will be live for the 1st of January. And then when you click into your product and you choose, for instance, animal products, it'll bring out another section if we click the next slide. And then it expands this box, which asks you for the key pieces of information that you need to provide for this pre-notification. So that in this case is the single administrative document number, which is your customs import reference number, which you get from completing the declaration with the Revenue AIS system. The CHED number, which you have just seen demonstrated how to declare and receive your CHED number, and the means of transport. And the means of transport in this case is roll on, roll off, or lift on, lift off, or by air. If we click the next slide, then you can see on the left-hand side where, for instance, the CHED and the roll on, roll off has been put in, but also on the right-hand side, you can now see where you can attach the documents that are for supporting this import. So mandatory documents are indicated at the top of the list and with an asterisk, and then the rest of the documents are the various different optional documents that may be required depending on the commodity you're bringing in. So the details of what those extra supporting documents are will be available on the department's website under the relevant commodity area for the import you're bringing in. These tend to be airline bill of ladings, commercial invoices, perhaps a catch certificate for fishery products, and so on. So you would select the button, find the file on your computer, and browse to your file and then attach it and go down the list. So we can go to the next slide. So you can see here now what the screen will look like when you have attached 2 documents to it as required. And then when you click next, we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, you're shown the terms and conditions, which are just standard to do with why the department is requesting the information, what it will be used for, and details and links to other information. And then you click that you've read the conditions and you hit send. And then on the next slide, you'll see a pop-up will come up and it brings you through sending the application, uploading the documents. So those tick off one by one, and then at the end you can see that your application has been received. At that point you can either go to the main menu or there's a button to make another application, and that just brings you straight back in to make the next declaration required. So if we click the next slide. So as a final step, once you have done that, much like our anonymous portal, you will also receive an automatic email from the system to confirm the receipt of your application. So this, while you can also view your list of applications in the system, you will receive an email confirmation for each application. And there is an important reference number on this, which is the application reference number shown in a box at the top. And if there is going to be any correspondence on your case that you want to conduct with the department, you need to quote that reference number for more efficient dealing with your query. So for instance, if you've forgotten to attach a document, or if you want to send in additional information, you would quote that reference number in your email. The document or your email will also provide you a large hyperlink there, which says email link. And if you click that for future correspondence, it automatically creates an email for you with the subject line, which will include your reference number, which will then be submitted and will get linked to your case for department staff to get to faster. So if we can click next. So some of the improvements that will be coming on stream, so that the portal itself will go live with the ability to make this application. Shortly afterwards, we will be onboarding additional functionality. So one of those are regularly used settings. So if you're somebody who always imports the same product from the same location via the same port, for instance, you will be able to save those settings so they auto-populate for you. You will always be able to overwrite them and change them, but it will again just save those few extra submission of details. The view application history again will be coming on stream so that you will be able to click in and see your previously submitted cases, from the ones that are submitted and not yet being worked on, the ones that are in progress, but also the ones that are finished and their historical records. You will be able to edit and update submitted applications. So in the instance where you have forgotten perhaps to attach a document, you'll be able to go in and update the case and add that additional document. And we'll also be moving a communication relating to your application into the portal. So at go live, what will happen is if there is a query or if inspectors have any questions or if you've forgotten a document, you'll receive an email asking you to send back in the document via email. So communication will be email based, and that will eventually move into the portal. So it'll be all communications and activity will occur within the portal. Next. I think this is not for me, so I'm going to be handing over to another colleague.
I can just finish these last two slides. So last steps before arrival into the port. So your truck driver before boarding the ferry, each truck driver will have a PBN, a pre-boarding notification. This needs to be completed in order to board the ferry and will contain all the MRNs, master reference numbers for that consignment on the truck. 30 minutes out before arrival into Dublin Port, the PBN will be updated to tell the driver what channel they're to proceed to the port. For that from controls, the PBN will be routed red or orange, as all products of animal origin will require a seal check and possible ID physical checks. Providing that the consignment passes its physical and seal checks, the veterinary inspector will send a message through traces, declaring that the consignment is validated, and the message will be sent to revenue, declaring that from an agriculture point of view, it can be green routed. Yeah, so that's just pretty much the same information again. If there's any more information that's needed, you can go to the website gov.ie/agriculture, and that's the end of our presentation here.
I will now hand over to Joseph McNamara, who is a plant health inspector with the department, and he will be bringing us through the CHED PP.
Now, have you?
Now, if you can just share your screen with us, Joe, that would be.
Let me see. Okay, yeah. You can see that now, can you?
Yeah. So
Great.
go ahead.
Right, just following on from my colleague's input there on creating sheds for products of animal origin, I'm going to run through the basics involved in creating a shed PP for plant products. So we'll assume that you're already registered on Traces, and this will be the home screen that you see when you log on as person responsible for the load. So the first thing we will do is we will go to certificates, and we will select shed. So we want to create a new shed. So we will click on the green icon, create new. First thing we will have to do is check mark shed PP. So we're creating the right kind of shed. And we will have to select the kind of commodity that's relevant. So you can search for the commodity via tariff codes if you wish, or by the common name. So for the purpose of this example, we will choose apples. So the first 4 digits of the tariff code are 0808. And we can select the green tab here for apples and click done. Now, so that has opened up a draft shed document into which we will input all our information. So a lot of the information will already be kind of saved in Traces, and it's just a matter of us searching for it and selecting from a menu. So for this, we will will select the country first because it narrows our search field. And then we will search for the name of the operator. So we're using generic names here. And if you have trouble locating the operator and the operator doesn't exist, we will perform an advanced search and try again. So if you perform an advanced search and the operator that you were looking for isn't displayed in the results of the search, if you scroll down, you have the option to create a new operator. And it makes you perform an advanced search just so we don't have multiple operators created by the same name. But anyway, we already have our operator here for the purpose of this example, exporter 1. And it's the very same procedure for the consignee. So we'll do the same thing. Search by country, Ireland. In our customs reference, you'll notice any field with a red star, it's a mandatory field, it has to be completed. Customs reference, sometimes we will put in the SAD here. It's not essential, but we would ask people to do it. For the border control post, for the purpose of plant products, we have 2 different border control post options here that this person responsible for the load has the authority to bring consignments through. So we're going to select Dublin Port here. Inspection planner location, it's not a mandatory field, but for low consignments, we would ask agents to put in the cargo terminal of a low consignment. For RoRo, it's not relevant. In field I8, it's already pre-populated because when you log in, it will populate this field, operator responsible for the consignment, with your own details, but it's possible to change it if you wish. Field I9, accompanying documents. So for plant products, it's slightly different to products of animal origin. For plant products, we will need a phytosanitary certificate. So that's the only document we will ask you to declare for a CHED PP. So we will click on this. And when we're inserting the phytosanitary cert number, we will ask you to put in the whole number. So every phytosanitary cert will have a unique ID number. And then depending on the country of origin, there might be a prefix of different letters and numbers, and we'll ask you to put in the entire number. Then we will need the date of issue. So we'll just pick a random date. Country of origin, that was the South African one I entered. So we have the option of attaching a scanned copy of the phytosanitary cert here, but we won't ask you to do it because you will do that step when you're submitting your application through the portal that Fiona outlined previously. So we just have the numeric information here in the country of origin, place of issue, maybe Cape Town, apply. So prior notification, another mandatory field. This will be the date of arrival of the vessel. So it gives a prior notification to ourselves, so we can deal with the consignment and the administration of your application. So there's a drop-down menu here with a calendar. We'll imagine it's tomorrow, and we need a time of arrival as well, midday. And I7, so place of destination, you'll notice it's already pre-populated with consignee details. If the place of destination is a different location to the consignee, you would enter the information here. Means of transport, another mandatory field. So it's going to be coming in by vessel into the, and we will need some extra information here. So if you have the IMO number, it will already be saved, and you can select the boat then from the drop down menu. And if you have your bill of lading number and voyage number, you can also input them. Country of dispatch. So we mentioned it was South African produce, country of origin, but our country of dispatch in this instance is the United Kingdom. So container number, you'll notice there's no red star, so it's not a mandatory field. So it means you can complete a CHED PP without a container number. So for row consignments, obviously it's not going to be relevant, but for low, format of the container number is important. It will throw up an error message if it's not completed in the right format. So it has to be capital letters, no space between the letters and the numbers, and then it has to be this a 7-digit format. And then it turns blue when it recognizes the correct format. You can add a seal number as well. There's no specific format for a seal number. It'll be on the bill of lading. And then when you've completed one correctly, there's the option to submit more. Now, the purpose of the goods. So if they're for sale within the European Union, we're going to select for internal market, I-23. And that will make these following fields redundant until we get to I-31 for wood packaging material. So you'll notice it is not a mandatory field. We have no red star, but if you do have wood packaging, you're obliged to declare it. So we will go to add wood packaging material. So we'll select pallets in this instance. Now, so that's created wood packaging material descriptions. So you'll notice there are 3 mandatory fields here. So we now have to enter the details, the description of the wood packaging material. So it's made from wood. That's our EPO code. Count, we will say that there's 21 pallets. Country of origin, let's say South Africa. And I've purposely left out a detail here. That's a common error, and we will come back to that near the end. So now we have the second part of I-31, a description of our consignment. It's a common place where errors are made. So we already entered the target code at the beginning. So now we'll need to select the product here, Malus domestica. So that's the botanical name. You will have the name available to you on the phytosanitary cert. Product type, it will be fruit and veg. Our net weight, we'll put it in kilos. Our package count, 1,600 boxes. And our country of origin, and gross weight. Okay, now we will try and submit for and see what happens. We'll see what error messages are generated, and then we can correct the errors. So, okay, it's showing us an error in the wood packaging material. There's an error message down at the bottom of the CHED here. We'll just expand it, and we can click on the error, and it'll bring us to the relevant part of the CHED. So it's telling me row 0 count is incomplete. So we'll go here to count. And so what we've done was we've forgotten to insert the unit. It's pallets, 21 pallets. Okay, we'll try again and submit. Okay, it's showing us a couple more errors. So description of consignment, row 1 net weight is incomplete. So our net weight, we didn't select units of kilograms, and gross weight was the same error, kilograms also. Now I'll try that again. So that was created successfully. So we can see here. So that's just refreshing. So you can see now we have a CHED number that we can quote in our application. But if we decide that we want to edit the CHED, it still has the status of new. So we still have the option as person responsible for the load of being able to make edits to the CHED. So if we decided we needed to add another commodity, we would go back to I-31 and we can add another commodity. So we'll say, for sake of example, it's cut flowers and it's roses. We can search. Here we go, fresh cut flowers, CHED PP. So now we need to enter the consignment details. So we have an option to hide optional columns. So we'll get the EPO code with the botanical name. So this will be available on your phytosanitary search. And then it's going to be, your commodity type will be fresh cut flowers. Your net weight, we'll call it 200 kilos. Make sure we select kilograms. Boxes, 20. Country of origin. And as an option, on a phytosanitary search for cut flowers, stem count is often quoted. So we'll say there are 10,000 stems in this consignment. And we will resubmit that for decision. And there we go, successfully updated. So now there we have a CHED with 2 different commodities declared. So that's it complete. And I'll just briefly go through the options then available if we want to create another one with copy as new function. Basically, it cuts down on a lot of work if you are creating CHEDs from the same operators with the same commodities time and time again. So this is the CHED that we just created. And if we want to create another one with the same commodities from the same operator, we will just actions, go to copy as new. And that will open up draft CHED with a lot of the same details. So we'll just need to change certain details with regard to accompanying documents, and the volumes of the commodity might change as well, and obviously your customs reference number. But everything else is pretty much the same. Great, okay, I'll hand you back to my colleagues. Tom, do you want to take over?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for that that comprehensive look through the various screens and what they'll look like for people when they're clicking on them. Thank you very much. Now, what I would say here is I have a number of questions, and I'm just going to ask all of my panelists. We are also joined, incidentally, by Diane Gordon, who is another of the department's inspectors. She's based at Dublin Airport. We're joined by Emer Murphy from Revenue, and we are also joined by John Higgins, who is another veterinary inspector from the department. I'm just going to say the questions, and whoever feels they are best able to answer them can go ahead and answer them. The first one I'm going to go with is, do these procedures apply to bulk tankers of food or feedstuffs? And the examples that are given there are vegetable oil, glucose, wine, or industrial alcohol. So I don't know who would like to take that one.
Tom, I can, just looking at the description of the products there and the tanker versions of them, those products actually don't fall into DAFM's role. They're more HSE, if anything, so I would refer them to the HSE, which was the first slide, which we can, I'm not sure if we're sending out the format in a PDF format or they can re-access it on YouTube.
No, what I will do though is I will take that question and I will refer that one on to the HSE. So thank you very much for that. I have another question. Someone is asking, how does traces work in relation to groupage? In section I7 or 1.7 of the form, there's only one final destination, whereas there could be different products within a consignment that are going to different retailers. So that's I think a good question. Any takers on that one?
I can take that. So the thing with traces is that it has to have, you have to have a separate, you have to have a place of destination on traces. On your shed, you do not need a place of destination on your health cert, but this is where it becomes tricky, is that you need, if you are sending one consignment to several different addresses, you need several different health certs. You can't split the load, okay? So you cannot make 3 or 4 sheds out of one health cert just because you need to put a different place, a different address or dispatch on them. You would need a separate health cert for each drop off in the EU.
Very good. Okay, thank you for that. What happens if a shed is not issued in time, but the load is already en route? Does one of our portal inspectors maybe want to take that one?
If in the absence of no one taking it, I can jump in. We require 24 hours pre-notification. So if we don't have the notification, the load is en route. The load will not be stopped from getting on the boat. If you have your customs done, you will get on the boat. The delay will happen in Dublin Port. You will be asked to park up in one of the park up facilities until we have done our documentary check, until we've received the shed, done the documentary check, and further routed you, which will be communicated to you by customs.
Okay, thank you, Norman. Several people have asked whether the slides from this presentation are going to be posted. We will be posting the presentation. If people want the slides individually, they can contact me. My address is tom.fabozzi, that's F-A-B-O-Z-Z-I, and that's at agriculture.gov.ie. What facilities are there in Dublin Airport for day-old chicks? Is there a heated area? That's one I think that also came up at last week's webinar.
I can take this. Yeah, in the live animal border control post in Dublin Port, which is sorry, I think I'm reading the question. So either Dublin Port or Dublin Airport. So in the border control facility for live animals, we have specially designated areas with control temperature as required by whatever species is coming in. So yes.
Very good. And I suppose a not unrelated question to that is to do with live animals. Are they unloaded or are they inspected in their actual containers?
Yeah, so if we're talking about, so in the airport, if you're moving live animals in the airport, and Jackie will be able to comment on this, because they're actually unloaded from the airplane to go into their horse box on the runway, then all the checks are done from that point of view. In Dublin Port, from the point of view of the live animals, so Dublin Port will be designated for equines and other animals, but not for cattle, sheep, goat, etc. They will go through Rosslare. In the port, the equines, if we can access them safely, and access all of the horses on the horse box, and we can complete our checks, we do not need to unload them. We're not required to unload them if we can access them. But if we cannot access them or we have concerns, then we would unload them.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Just Tom there, this is Jackie here from Shannon. Just to say, I can just verify there what Noreen has said, in that the horses, they, like in the airport, they're taken off the aircraft and they're in a stall and then they're moved to their box. But if they're in the box, they can be checked in the box by microchip. The microchips can be checked once it's safe to do so.
Okay, and Jackie, while I have you there, someone made reference to something that you said in your part of the presentation. Jackie
Yes.
mentioned CHED 1 and 1 health cert per animal. Is there an exception made in the case of rodents? Because this particular poster often brings in hundreds of rats and mice in specific consignments. Presumably each animal doesn't have to have its own health cert when you're bringing them in on that kind of basis.
Yeah, when I made that statement, it's actually for horses. Excuse me. It's 1 health cert, one shed. Normally, no, you wouldn't. It normally when you'd have groupage like that, it would be all on the 1 health cert. So it would be 1 shed. But in the instance of horses, it is 1 health cert, 1 shed.
Okay, thank you very much. And the final one, sorry, I have 2 more. How does a person register as a transporter? This is someone who is possibly now looking to transport their own horses. You just go, as far as I know, you just go on the department website, and there is a central registration portal now where you can register with the department.
That's correct, Tom.
You'd also have to have an EORI number from revenue. And the final one is, can we confirm that these procedures do not apply to European Union goods arriving via the land bridge? I might hand that one to Noreen as well. You're getting all the fun ones today, Noreen.
Yes, so for currently for products of, well, no, not currently, from the 1st of January for products of animal origin that are transiting the UK land bridge, as long as they are not unloaded in the UK, they complete their journey straight through GB, enter Ireland through a border control post. We will not need a traces submission for those. We will do what's called a documentary check based on the customs documents that you will be submitting to customs. But what we do need to say, and we do need to put an adage to that, is that the UK will require, currently our understanding is that the UK will require health certificates for transit of these goods, products of animal origin, from April. So that is something you need to consider if you are moving goods regularly from the continent through GB into Ireland. Yeah, so that's that.
Okay, Noreen, thank you very much for that. And I would like to thank you and all of the other presenters and panelists for taking part. I'd like to thank everyone who attended this webinar. And I'll let you know that any questions that we get, any follow-up questions, we will engage with you on an individual basis. We obviously didn't have time to go through everything today. We have another webinar this day next week where we'll be dealing with the movement of equines. And that will be jointly between ourselves and the British equivalent, the DEFRA, which is the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. So thank you very much once again for joining us. We will put the link to this webinar up online when we have it edited and put up, and the presentation will be available to anyone who wants to contact me. So thank you very much, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.